with Rudi Lickwood, the topical interactive chat show every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. with special guests and you, the audience. Comedy with Rudi Lickwood. This event is brought to you by Comedy Hotspot. Don't forget, keeping it real with Rudi Lickwood.
Whoa. Give us a sec to remove that. Hello and good evening. How you doing? It's Rudi Lickwood here. Thanks for joining me. Good evening, good evening, good evening, Claire. Thanks for popping in. Jules, how you doing? Jules, massive, massive, massive. Jules, how you doing, girl? You well? That was a track by Leroy Wilson, by the way, from Arima, soon to be released. Is there no sound? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that correct? Is there no sound? Just give me a little nod up in the comments there. I think I lost one or two people, but not to worry. Most probably come in a bit later on. But have I got sound at the moment? Have I got sound? Wagwan Natural. So Natural, can you hear me? Because I'm being told that I've got no sound at the moment. Coming through. Loud and clear. Excellent, 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 excellent. There is now, Rudi. You want to take out your earplugs, mate. That's what you want to do. You want to take out your earplugs. Well, this is one gentleman I have been looking forward to interviewing. I'm not going to lie. I think he's going to play a major role in what's to come over the next decade or so, possibly even the next 20 years, which will have a fantastic impact on the Black UK economy. I want to say Black UK economy because he's going to correct me on that. He's going to say African. He's going to say African. He's going to say African Caribbeans, right? He's not one to mince his words, and he's very concise. But I'm hoping that tonight he'll relax with us. I'm hoping that he will relax with us, and that we get to see another side of him. Because he's a very astute individual, but I want to find out, I guess, why is he the way that he is? Yeah, I think it's so important to understand exactly where he's coming from and why he has reached this point in his life, I guess, where he's actually stepped forward to make a change, not in just his own life, but in the lives of all of us who actually live in the UK. And I'm not just talking about it just from a Black perspective either, because if you raise the Black profile, you raise everybody, as we all know that. So I thought one way of us getting in there was for us to discuss the implications of the Nation of Islam's High Court win against the Met Police and Lambeth Council. All right. Because we're talking about the judicial system and the way in which it oppresses people. I say people, okay? So I didn't just say Black people when I said that. I said people, the way it oppresses people. But then what I have found is that he has put together a program, all right, that will enable African Caribbean people. And we will get to that. I promise you we will get to that. But most importantly, I think it's that we should get behind him and find out who he is and what he's about. And so in my own way, as you know, let's see who he is. Come on, let's go. Look at that. Wi-Fi's playing up as per usual. Come on, where are you? I don't know what's happened here. Hold on. Nice to see people popping in, by the way. Nice to see you, Jackie. I'm having, you know what? It's blustery wind out there, man. And so I think it's playing hoo-ha with my computer. It shouldn't be. Everything is locked down. So let's just know that I'm going through the heebie-jeebies at the moment. Come on, man. Okay. Right. Evening, Liz. I see you coming in. Evening, guys. You guys have caught me right in the middle of a technical, you know. Right, let's try this again. I am now alone. Oh dear. Right. It's not opening for whatever reason. Carl, good to see you, Carl. Thank you very much for popping in. Right. Whoops, it looks like your video doesn't have a video track. Oh, that's a bit crap. Okay. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play this in the background, right? Which is Leroy Wilson's new track. And please allow me to introduce onto the platform with me, Mr. Dean Okia Snr.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
How are you?
I'm blessed, King.
Right. Well, I like to say that I'm blessed, but for some reason, your collage.
We can't help technical defaults. We can't help it, King.
You can't help it, boy. You know what? What hurt me, right, Dean, is the fact that I put so much time into that collage, you know. Yeah, I put a load of time into it, and for it to decide that it's not going to play has really pissed me off, blood.
I know, I hear you. I want you to remember the offer I made you 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, you did. You did. You said, let me just send you a last minute thing.
And you know the thing, it's what I call insurance. And I try and have it in as many areas of my life as possible. What if shit?
That's what you always say. You always kind of go, what if this doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen? So do you always have an ABC plan? And have you always been that way?
No. It's experience, brother. You see, the worst thing is to front. Yeah, I popped out of the... No, none of us pop up with the complete clarity. And through 27 years of being in the commercial world, I haven't skipped any development stage. Because I didn't learn it by design, I learned it by default, by messing up. And okay. it's a choice of whether to do the same thing again or to sit down, pause, and learn.
Okay. So that's like finding your right destination by getting lost.
Absolutely. And I had a very frustrating conversation with a lady the other day who happened to be a politician.
Okay.
And I'm inviting her into something, and she says, like you began with, oh, we've called the paper black. And I said, that's great, but you're going in the wrong direction because it's everyone.
Yeah.
So she says, no, but this is why I have to do it. And I'm telling her, you may have to do that, but I don't. I said, if you had a journey where the destination was 70 miles in the east and you've committed off and you're now 30 miles in the west, you've got to come back to point zero and start that journey again because you're going in the wrong direction. And if you don't desire to do that, here's where we part ways. It's not emotional for me. It's either I'm wrong or I'm right. And that's why I use the analogy of the PIN number. If you type in the number, if your PIN number is 1976, and because you're emotionally inclined to keep typing in 1972, you will never reach the information or the cash on the other side of the ATM because you're going in the wrong direction.
And how many times do people make that mistake?
Hey, it's not only that we make it, we inherit it.
Yeah, we try the same thing over and over again and looking for a different result. And there's only one result we're actually going to get, which is the same result as it's not working out.
But you know the funny thing?
No.
It's the unique thing of the PIN. If there's only one PIN number, and I tell you, you've got to come here on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock to lodge for this license, and the only way you're going to get the license is by doing that, what would you do? You're not going to come on a Wednesday at 11 o'clock, are you?
No. No, but I must admit, though, even when people do give me instructions and they tell me what to do, yeah, for some reason you kind of go, you know what? Me know same tell me I saw me for do it, you know, but me I gotta try it this way. You understand? And I give my daughter credit actually because she learns from other people's mistakes.
Beautiful. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. Because you don't have to learn from your own mistakes, but I'm not that smart. And I've proved I'm not that smart, so I learn from my own mistakes.
Yeah, you proved that you're not that smart. I mean, that's not fair to say, man, because I look back at you as a school child, and you look like you were straight up smart. Look at you with your tie and everything.
Do you know, when I look at that picture, I think about what was actually going on in my... Look at that youth there. He looks so cute. He looks so studious. But I was selling pirate videos and porn at secondary. So the same way you see me looking cute there, I had 2 video recorders in my bedroom, and I was dubbing pirates and porn. And 2 years after that, because I was 12 in that picture, I was getting drunk, going to pick up the porn with my brethren on a Saturday, which is my son's age, who doesn't go anywhere. And I was getting drunk every week.
Okay. I find that kind of difficult to
reconcile.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Where were you actually brought up? So
in that picture, that was the last year my mum and dad were together. I was 12. And they separated and got divorced 1997 when I moved in with my grandparents to Kenneton. So on a Saturday, my mum would let me go and visit my brethren in Kentish Town, and we would get wet.
Okay.
And I'd borrow porn from his old man stack, double take them, bring them back. Same celebration every week. Make my money through the week that I know I got my alcohol at the end of the week.
So what? But wait, and this is, are you talking about VHS at this time?
VHS.
Yeah. You're lucky you had VHS, me had Betamax and
Well, so did my brethren's old man. So we used to bring a video there to dub it from his Betamax onto VHS.
Yes.
Betamax being better quality.
Yeah, that's right. But it's funny how what is it? It was funny that how VHS kind of like took off, because VHS was the better system.
No,
Betamax was the better system. Yeah. But VHS was the thing that actually took off.
Marketing this is the thing people got to understand about a currency. The superior marketing in an early market is going to win, no matter that the product is superior. So when you used to see Microsoft products, they were superior to Apple, but Apple had better marketing, so they got more adoption.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Okay. I know also Apple also made sure that you couldn't cross platforms when it came to them. They locked everything off. You know what I mean?
They created their proprietary platforms.
And it's just us you come to, which I found, because at first I was very much a PC man.
Yep.
And I was not going to touch Apple, but it was true that I was getting viruses. Viruses is what pushed me over the edge to go and spend the extra couple of £1,000 that I had to in order to go and get Apple. But then because I wanted to execute better, basically. You know,
I still use PC now, and for the stats that you will get from a PC and because an Apple is only a PC with an OS operating system now. Where they used to have different motherboards, now they don't. Now they're using the same brains. So you're paying for branding.
Yeah, but they always and they're also
and the operating system.
That's what I was going to say. They always get you to upgrade. It's like a phone. I was happy with my Nokia 10. I was really happy with it. And then they said, no, you got to upgrade. You got to move on. You got to upgrade. You got to move on. And I thought to myself, no, I don't want to upgrade. I don't want to move on. So was you competitive as a child though?
It's funny in my head, because I was never really into sports when I was a youth. So I became physical later on, although I did martial arts, Wing Chun, between 8 and 9. But in my head, I was competitive. But in the real world, I don't really think that reflected what was in my cerebellum.
Okay. I like that cerebellum, man. Because isn't that where the brain does all its...
Yeah.
All of that is working. So is this your younger brother or older brother?
This is my younger brother. So that's me in the grey, and that's my younger brother in the burgundy.
Yeah, the jumpsuit on them, blood.
Yeah. So I was always very protective of him and my younger sister. They never had a fight at school, ever.
Ever?
ever.
Right, you can see that as a 70s picture, man. Look at the wallpaper.
We all had the same wallpaper.
That's
and
right.
carpet
The
and
wallpaper in the chair, man.
Yeah,
It was like,
yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. So that little girl in the middle, I came to pick her up from school one day and saw a young man chasing her around the teacher, and I thought it was a joke. And then he fly kicked her in her back. And then it was a red mist, and he was in a crumpled mess. Whoa. So they never ever had fights at school. I got bullied through primary school and would take the licks with older youths. Okay. And that's how I learned to deal with myself, but never them.
Okay, so you were like the umbrella for them, basically. I find that interesting because, like, the same way that you acted as an umbrella for your siblings, it's like you've embraced the community in a similar fashion.
But it's a funny thing. It's the same way that I would see my friends as well. There's something I always found off about guys talking about guys who were their friends. And I remember the first time I really reflected on it in Peckham, a young man had walked away and everybody started talking about his girlfriend, saying she was this and she was that. And I actually felt the pain in my stomach for the man who'd walked away, because I'm thinking, how can you talk about your brethren like that? I'm talking about when we're like 17, 18. It couldn't correlate in my mind how men speak about men in their absence that they were smiling with 30 seconds earlier. It makes no sense to me. It's bizarre. I don't understand why men gossip.
Because some of them are like women. Some of them are like women.
It's just always been foreign to me.
I think we got female tendencies in us. I mean, people always say that men don't really have nothing to talk about. All they talk about is salivating over a carburetor. You understand what I'm saying? Or the latest valve amp. You know what I mean? Because it was always about the music and how much wattage, how much power. You know, everything is directed towards the penis in a sense, in terms of that thrust and that power that we would sort of like have. But I think that there is very much a female side in men where we do attach ourselves to it at times.
Well, to a degree, but then that can be applied to everything as well. That same energy that you would say is phallic energy, we can apply to things that we don't. Because that same phallic energy, when we get in, I look at guys from the road and I will see someone treating his brothers in the most despicable of ways and become the most amenable guy when he's in front of Europeans. I've seen guys who make the most noise. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then I've seen them get in a room. And I'm talking about in the last 5 years. I'm talking about the guy who would be screaming and roaring into the cell phone, making the most noise. And then he's in front of Europeans and he's speaking proper.
but
it doesn't correlate.
Don't you find
it doesn't correlate for me?
I hear you, but don't you find that that behavior is innate within us?
I do.
Go to the Caribbean.
I know why.
Yeah,
I know where it comes from.
Because you can go to the Caribbean,
birthplace of it.
Walk into a restaurant. Walk into a restaurant, and you know that you're British and what have you, and a white person walks in, and you see the treatment is totally different. And it's not unless you open your mouth and you say something, and they realize that you're a foreigner. Do you get a slight bit of different treatment? Not much, not as much as your European or Caucasian counterparts going to get.
I think it's in how you respond. I've done it in Paris, and I just bounce. Because I'll be straight with you. When I'm spending my money, I'm God with a small G. Treat me accordingly, or I will get up and leave. I took my son we've gone to the cinema in Leicester Square, and we've gone to Angus Steakhouse. So now this little Somalian guy's shown us in. Impeccable behavior, great guy, loved the service, to the table. Then he's left me with this Italian girl. She's a little bit stroppy when she started. Right. So I said, this young lady's not listening. So I said to my son, Super, go and tell her to make sure that the steaks are well done, because I can't eat no red meat. Me and my son like our steak black. Okay. So she goes and tells him, and then he goes and tells her, and she says something off to him. So he's come and sat down. I said, what did she say, Super? So I said, come here, young lady. Of Called her over. Didn't call her like that. I was very amenable. And she says, do you want to cook the steak at the table? I said, I beg your pardon, young lady. I said, I'm telling you I want it well done. Do you want to cook it at the table? Oh, she mistook who I was. Because you think that racism is about your color. No, racism is a power dynamic.
Here we go.
All white people can't be racist.
Here we go.
So now let me educate you. So I let her go through her little pantomime. And then I said, my love, I want the steak well done with black pepper. And she continued in her charade. So I said, okay, we're leaving. And I said, let me pay the bill. Oh, she knows it's going to be a problem. She said, you don't have to pay the bill. You can just leave. Yeah. I said, no, I'm going to pay the bill. Now, I wasn't going to pay for a steak I didn't eat. Yeah. I'm paying for my drinks that we ordered. So then when I'm speaking to our manager, I said, this young lady isn't qualified to work in the service industry because she's rude. Now she's trying to hide and she's trying to talk over me. I said, I will let you speak for as long as you want to speak. I'm talking to your colleagues now. He showed me in. He was impeccable. They said, you don't have to pay for the drinks. So I gave the Somalian young man a tenner.
Right.
Not because I don't have money, B. And you know what? I found your service so refreshing. Hold the tenner.
Okay.
That should have been whoever was serving me, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I said, I'm not leaving here because I don't have money. I said, and we've just walked from a £60 meal because of that young lady, because she's not qualified to work in the service industry. She's rude. I suspect her of being a racist. And I said that just for her ears, racism is a power dynamic. You can't be poor and racist. It's about power. And you don't have any, young lady. And you're not qualified to work in the service industry. I let them know I walked out of a £60 food bill because of her. And we went to a hamburger place and we ate because we have options. We aren't fated to suffer racism. We have to be complicit. We have options.
I mean, I've had this debate once on a show we call Anything Goes, right? And the question was, at the time, it was Biden or with them kicking him out of the house now at the moment. What's his name? Or Trump.
Yeah.
And those were just on the table. And I see that. Yeah. And the comment section went mad upon me. Right? Because they said, no, you have to take an option. You have to take. Now, we've been given, we only know of two options, I think.
Yep.
Growing up in the UK. That's either Conservative or Labour.
Yeah.
Right? Now, my question is to you is, where do you stand on that? Or is your program designed to go either way, the way in which, is it Ice Cube or is it Ice T?
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
The contract for Black America.
Right. Presented himself. Where do you come in on that?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. You see, you said, was it your daughter learns from other people's mistakes?
Yeah.
Me too. So when I saw what they did in America, the first thing I wanted to do was add value to a political party in the UK. So the We Matter party were forming, and I said, I'm going to get straight involved with that. And we're going to build out this vehicle until it's robust enough to serve us in every single ward where you've got a majority African Caribbean population. First and foremost, let's get our own party to get local council award seats, because that's where the resources are. The only reason to get power is to get resources. So when Black people are saying we don't want money, forget that. We want money. Secondly, politics is a lot more complex than we think. So then when we want to change legislation, we need more than the political party. We need what's called an APPG, an all-party political group. Now, an all-party political group focuses on a sole issue. So let's say that Sainsbury's, Tesco's, and all of these guys wanted you to pay for carrier bags so they didn't have the overhead. Right. They would set up an APPG and they would bring in Conservative, Lib Dem, Labour, Green Party, and all of the politicians from each party. They start small, just councillors, grow it out to MPs until everybody's on board. Now, we know everybody's going to be on board with those guys because they're going to pay, right?
Right.
Cool. So I went about investigating who would join our APPG. We need a Conservative, a Lib Dem, Labour. You've got Christian Party, who's got one of the fifth biggest number of candidates, okay. Green Party, and We Matter. Well, we have all of those candidates now for an APPG. You know what the criteria of the APPG is? To specifically work on collective legislation for African Caribbeans who are resident, African Caribbeans who are immigrants, the Caribbean, and the Commonwealth African nations, to specifically lobby on interests just for those named groups there. And it's called the African Caribbean Parliamentary Caucus. So now as we start to build these vehicles in different ways that all build out to the bigger puzzle that represent us in the nation. So it's not that ADPACK works in isolation. It's about working and adding value to those who have initiatives already, same with the reparations, and just growing it out and making it more robust.
Okay, that's interesting. So, but then what happens when you enter the arena knowing that we only represent 3% of the population?
Hey, when you put your gun in the air to fire warning shots, people fire back, you know. People fire back. And as I will tell any entrant who thinks this thing is a walk in the park, I've been broken into by security services.
Okay.
So it's a game, but it's not child's play. And there are things that you must expect, which are just rudimentary. You must expect people to tap your phones. You must expect people to watch you. Yet still, your activity and your commitment is necessary. Because if not you, then who?
So then where did you get those smarts from? I mean, Julie Juicy says that's a really good analogy that you gave us there. But where did you, because I mean, from a guy who was, you know, pushing out VHSs, yeah. I mean, who was the influence? I mean, here you are as a child, yeah? And I take it that's your mum, yeah?
That's my mum, yeah.
I mean, how much of an impact did mum have on you?
My mum and my dad had different impact. Now, and I would have both of their brains. My mum worked her whole life as a legal secretary and then a paralegal. And my dad is a musician, so he's very creative. And I have as much balance in that I'm all work, but at the same time, I'm all play and it's all creative. And then I took influence from absolutely everywhere where I saw people doing it right. I made a decision between my mum and my dad. I can't have a job because ultimately it's not going to deliver me what I want. And I can't be as carefree as my dad as a musician because it's not going to deliver me what I want.
Right.
So there must be something in between them. And really, I suppose it comes from both of my grandfathers who were both entrepreneurial. Both of them's name were Richard Bailey and Richard Okai. And my middle name is Richard that I take from both of them. And they're in my DNA.
Okay. Because I always think to myself that there has to be something in the background that would have some sort of influence. Especially when it comes to critical thinking.
Yeah.
You know, and knowing that your mum was legal kind of gives me clarity in terms of why you speak the way that you do.
Because you got to be able to convey it in the simplest terms, brother.
Yeah, because you don't waste words. You don't waste words.
Yeah. The thing is, in a sped up era that we live in, nobody has the luxury of time. So, you know, as people are leaving the room and they're just smiling and stepping backwards, we don't even do that. We just turn off the thing.
See,
we don't care. Get to the point.
Yeah.
And Malcolm X said it, make it plain.
Yeah.
Some people come and it's that sermon that you wish had never started because your belly's rumbling and your belly's hurting.
And he's going on and on and he's going on and on. And you're like, we get the point, man. We get the point. We get it. But
when people don't want you to get the point, they use words you don't understand unnecessarily. And that's how I know the difference when someone has come to provide solutions and when someone has come to shine as a leader.
Okay.
I'm nobody's leader. You don't pay me.
This is what I was going to say. This is exactly what I was going to say. You actually steer away from being leader. And I'm gonna throw this up at the moment, but I don't want us to go into it just yet. Right? You actually steer away from actually being leader. But yet for you strategically create a pathway that's going to act as an umbrella. Once again, the same way that I say that you protect your siblings, that you see can be protective to the community as a whole, and you're always making reference to the African Caribbean movement, because you see that more as a revolution, don't you? If I'm correct.
Well, it is, and remember, we're behind enemy lines. What it was for our Yiddish brothers and sisters is that the Germans lost. So because the Germans lost the war that committed their Holocaust, they humbled themselves to paying reparations. They humbled themselves to a genuine apology. They humbled themselves to make an inclusion in their country. Well, Britain never lost. We lost the war against the British. That's what created our Holocaust. That's what created our offshore slavery in the Caribbean. That's what created the colonial system that is in Africa to this day, that has inherited the old education system from Britain, the old legal system from Britain, whilst their stuff is legislatively changing on a daily basis. So we are behind enemy lines. And the reason that the racism is still metered down on us is because the war never stopped. So you have a soft war and you have a hard war. This is a soft war now because we're still at war. So the same way that you'll see a cold war between nations, we're in a cold war with the West, who conquered us as Africans. That never changed. It's only because now you can drive your car and you can work with him and eat in a restaurant with him that you think the war is over. The war isn't over. And you see it every time we make any development, it's attacked. So if it's effective, it will be attacked. So remember, I said, when you draw your gun, they're going to shoot. So be ready for them to shoot back. And don't be, well, that's unfair. It's not unfair because we're at war. Every tactic we use is fair. Every tactic they use is fair. So if you send in traitors, if you co-opt our leadership, because white supremacy pays and we don't reward socially and we don't pay, it's easy for a Tony Sewell to get born.
Right.
It's easy for a Kemi Badenoch to get born.
Right.
Or any of these guys. So we don't reward our so-called leadership.
No, we don't. I mean, I think we even appreciate them. Now, what I would like to say is that I don't want you guys in the comment section to allow me to run away and ask all the questions, okay? As we go along, it's important that you also allow your voices to be heard, because we're not going to get access to this man as easily as we have tonight, yeah? I was very fortunate to be able to get hold of him when I made that phone call, and I think you were in Stonebridge at the time, down the bus garage.
Yeah.
And it's only because of the relationship that we had, that our children both went to the same school, that you really and truly gave me the time of day. But there's a question here coming from Julie, so please get your questions in, all right? And that is, how do you help others to not make the same mistakes as yourself?
I demonstrate it. So we've designed a course called Manage Leadership, which is about civic and entrepreneurial leadership. So this is a 6-week introduction that goes across all the tenets of entrepreneurialism, but civic leadership at the same time, so that young guys and women don't get into the idea of charismatic leadership. I've got to be the one. I've got to be the central point. Because to give you the clearest demonstration that I can, look at Sasha Johnson now, that people want to celebrate her and post up her picture when 2 weeks ago they would have been killing her dead over what she said after the George Floyd assassination. So I reached out to her and said, you need a mentor, because as men in our community, I'm old enough to be her father.
Right.
We're supposed to put our arms around the little girl like that and guide her, because one, we know the intelligence forces are going to come down on her, and they got no sympathy that she's a 26-year-old young lady, tenacious, mother of two. They don't care about that when they send all the tools of the state. So first of all, whenever I mess up, I'm not scared to let people know in any way. My missus will say, that's too naked. I say, but you don't know who I'm helping, because Malcolm X helped me from beyond the grave. How many years after he had passed when I read it in 91? You don't know who you're helping. So don't hide when you mess up and you have these little lessons. Expose them. That's my advice to anybody. Stop the perfect picture. None of us are perfect. And then once I've annotated it down into a course, we will make that a curriculum to deliver to our young men and women, so they circumvent our development process. Nobody needs to go through 27 years I've gone through, because I've done it. So let me just annotize that into a 6-week introduction and then a 12-week purpose unearthing to unearth the leadership that you are with delivery partners. I'm not even delivering it now. It's a system. Yeah.
And that's the first thing that really grabbed me, was the fact that it is actually a system. It's not, it's a bureaucracy in a sense.
It's a bureaucracy.
Yeah, but it's a definite system and a definite way forward, because if there's one thing that I can say is, with the likes of Robin Walker and Muhammad, I can tell you about history, I can tell you about the pyramid, I can tell you about that, I can tell you about all of these things. Yeah, our history, I can tell you the only thing we'll ever invented was the word plagiarism.
Yep.
What I can't do is, I couldn't map a way forward. I couldn't map a way forward. Now, I want us to touch on Paul here. Paul on your left,
my big brother.
Yeah. And at the time, as I know, I mean, we were briefly talking when Paul walked into your shop and he actually recorded what you were doing, because you come from a background of suits, man. So how did that come about?
Opportunity. I had an opportunity to get stock, found the space, and that was it, brother. Everything that I've done in my life up until ADPACK has been based on opportunity. There's been very little that was designed. I was breaking up with my son's mum, and I was looking for something, because we'd had a web and graphic design business that I was going to move forward into, that was going to be able to look after me, look after my son, and any other family responsibilities that would come up. And in that time that I was setting up the shop, it did come up. My mum got a blood clot on her lung and couldn't work. And whatever the gap was, economically, I needed to supply at that time. So I developed a discipline of having envelopes. I had an envelope with my name on it for the bills. Okay. I had an envelope with shop rent. I had an envelope that said stock, and I had an envelope that said mum. And I would fill the stock envelope with cash first, because that's how I make my money. So I'd bet on myself. I go and buy the stock, take the profit, hit mum, hit my responsibilities with my son. And at that time, I was very much in machine mode, because we'd broken up and I'd spent the first 3 years at home with my son. I used to wake up at 5 in the morning, wash him if he was with my ex, and take him to school from there.
That's when I used to see you.
That's when you used to see me. Well, you would see me when I was taking him from mine off.
Yeah, he used to just shop.
Make any difference, I was going to see you.
Some people. This brother was like, he was suit and tie, yeah, head straight. He would walk like this, yeah, proper conservative lad. Do you know what I mean? He was wearing shoes, no trainers, shoes. Hello, bird. My wife just walked in, yeah.
Nice.
And he would drop his son off, and then he'd do an about turn, and he'd walk up towards. I can't remember exactly, but I knew you walked up past the thing there, and I used to say, "Oh, what the fuck is this, brother? You know what I mean?" Because I would. The difference was that because I had time in the morning, because I'm a comic, so that means that all my thing is happening in the evening. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So whereas you're rushing off, I'm chilling out.
I would have a 5-minute banter with about Chelsea with Mr. Ramsey.
Mr. Ramsey.
And that's about it. I definitely wasn't getting any parental politics.
No, not out of it. But he was always about his footballing thing. He was always about his footballing thing. But the thing is that you also made the decision to actually homeschool.
Yeah. So there was a period where my son was going through teacher bullying. Now, I used to pay for every after-school class that was offered. So he did wushu, martial arts, he did science club, he did maths club, and he did a drama club, but that was delivered in Kilburn. Now, in his science class after school, they had an experiment that was supposed to explode. And he said, why didn't it explode, miss? And his teacher, Miss Brown, said, because you're unpopular and nobody likes you. That's why you're sitting by yourself. Oh, so he told me. So when I went to the school, I drew her up. Now, I don't feel, when the kids were lining up, you know, when they line them up for us to collect them, I put my hands on my son's shoulder. I said, face your teacher. I said, Daddy's going to tell her now. So I said, how you spoke to my son, and I quoted him verbatim. I said, you're never going to do again. And she said, I didn't say that. I put my hand on my son's shoulders. I said, super. I want you to look your teacher in her eye while she lies about you in front of you. Now, I'm looking her in her eye. I'm empowering him to be the man he should be. And I said, I said that, I said, I know we're on borrowed time in this school.
Yeah.
So then what happened was a number of events. The boy was so happy-go-lucky in school, loved school. Then he's telling me he's sick, doesn't want to go to school, he's got a stomach ache. I said, no. So then he told me he had a secret. And I said, what is it? And he says he wants to hurt himself. So I spoke with his mum. I said, that's it. It's a wrap. They had done one particular thing with bullying where they'd sent him into the top class of the school. Now imagine he's in the bottom class of the juniors. So he's been sent there as a punishment. When they wanted to use him as teacher assistant, they would. After that, now you must shut your mouth and be quiet. So they sent him to that class. The woman who was the teacher, her name evades me, told all the students 10 extra house points if you give that boy the evil eye. What? So one of the parents let his mum know from her daughter that that's what the teacher had said, because my son said they were looking at me funny and I felt very uncomfortable. So I had asked for an investigation. Nothing happened. And the day I'd come to pick him up, which was a Wednesday, 2 days before half term on a Friday, I said, super, show me the teacher. I said, come here. I pulled the teacher up in the playground. She ran away from me like she was being chased with an Uzi. They come back with a sports teacher, a very nice guy, English guy. I'm sure you remember him, the sports teacher they had there. So I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, big man, you're not involved in this, so don't get involved. I watch his leg wobble. He said, thank you. So then they called the deputy head, the Australian one.
Yeah,
and she says, with the drawn on eyebrows, with the crayon. Yeah. So she said, you follow me. I said, come here. Adjust your attitude now. Sorry, Mr. Okai, this way. I said, that's better. And then I gave her and Mr. Roberts an education in the office, but I'd already decided to take him out. I just wanted them to know, if you play with Godzuki, now you know what Godzilla looks like. And that's the difference when a child has a father in their life. I'm the rain fire. I don't shout, but you're just concerned that it could happen any minute in your office. You play with my seed, you're playing with me. That same afternoon, we downloaded the statutory letter to remove him from school. That was it. He was never going back. We ordered all of the materials from the States, this, that, the third, and he was homeschooled from then.
But how did that actually hit on you and your time? Because was the shop going at the time?
So I would have him 2 days a week, and that ended up going down to 1 day a week. And his mum did the bulk of it. So his mum was the superhero of homeschooling.
Okay, so
our day to 2 days would be school, and then it would be a treat. So we did Michael Jackson, Thriller Live, Walking with, Dinosaurs, Batman Live, you name it. I still had that guilt complex
right,
where you overcompensate with money for what I wasn't doing with him.
Okay, I hear you.
And that's a very important balance for us to get right as parents, because then there's a stage where they come to expect it. And you'll see they talk to you a little bit cheeky about something they want. And if it's a whoa.
Yeah. You know they're going to start playing you now.
Tuck it in.
Yeah. They're going to start playing you now. I mean, I played that game with my parents. My parents split up when I was about 8, 9, I think, junior school.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when my troubles began, actually.
Yeah.
Unbeknown to myself, though, it's only on reflection can I see what happened, because the moment my dad left, it was like, boy, mum needs help.
Yeah.
And
that was exactly what happened with me. My mum could not carry a bag.
Yeah.
If we went shopping and there are 6 bags, my mum wasn't carrying a bag.
Yeah, but we had the pushchair back then, so we had the pushchair. We used to put everything on the pushchair and got down to the bag wash, and at the same time we used to do the shopping.
Yeah, the baked bean.
Sorry, Donna, apologize. Children do not do shopping.
Yes.
Children do not do waiting at the bus stop to get on the bus, to go to the shop, to carry the 6 bags back home. They don't do it. Like, I mean, my children were brought up in a car. Yeah,
exactly. Different world.
You know?
Different world.
You know how when you say it's a different world, just how much of a different world it is. Only over the weekend, this is how much I realized how much the world has changed, right? In that, when I was a child, I knew about halfpennies, I knew about threepenny bits, and then I knew about the decimal system, right? When I talk to a teenager today, they will tell me how much money they have got in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They will tell me how much money they got on the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm a millionaire, you know?
They're getting there.
Right? And the thing is that it told me that I was so much of a dinosaur, in the sense that I'm saying that ain't real. But for them, it's real, blood. And they are carrying on.
Yeah, currency is real for us. And it's not real. The only value it has is the value we place in it. That's it.
We don't place
value in it.
But the world trades with it, though. The world trades.
Yeah, the world trades with it until it doesn't. Because it's only based on the value we place in it. Look at any country where hyperinflation happens. Take Zimbabwe. You had a note that you were going to buy a week shopping. Then you would need a bin full of that note just to buy a loaf of bread. Because it's about the value we place in it. Fiat currency has no value. Any digital currency only has the value that we place in it. So when everybody is selling it because this man says something from his mouth, it drops in value. So the only value any currency has is the value we place in it.
Yeah. When they open their mouth, like you said, the whole world kind of like shakes.
Hey, this is the power of words. And do you know it's only based on a decision? If you decide you're that most powerful man today and you work 5 years on that, your words will have the influence you desire. And then somebody else says, my words don't mean anything, so they talk a mile a minute over projecting to convince you, right?
Right.
And because they talk, because they have lips, we're not interested by and large, right? But cryptocurrencies very much have value. I sat down in homeschool with my son, if it's not last Wednesday, the Wednesday before, and we both opened the Binance account on the computer, which is the trading platform to buy cryptocurrencies. And then we got the app on our phone. And then we have the same thing in our bank.
Right.
but you just don't own the chain of title from the cryptocurrency, which is why we open up the Binance account. So as I learn today, my son is going to learn from where I am, not from the journey that I've come. So when we talk about leadership training, is from where me and my peers are today, not the journey we've come across. They don't need to duplicate that journey. So
let me cut you there, because a lot of people will be able to jump in on this straight away. So let's take that same analogy and throw it onto Claude Anderson.
Yes, sir.
Let's do that. Yeah, because we know what Claude's done.
So my fear was being his age and saying the same thing. And I had to figure out how to systemize what powernomics is. Because if you tell people, I saw a man in Hyde Park hold up a book, and the white man says, well, I'm questioning you on this history and this history and this history. And he says, it's in the book. Only we could all tell the brother hadn't read the book because he didn't have any rebuttal for the man's things. And we're there like this, Jesus Christ is going to keep waving this book. And he kept waving the book. It's in the book. But the problem with people is we don't follow the book because we may not make the time to read. So we just regurgitate the title. We're great repeaters. We're great repeaters. And I said, this is no good. We need a system. Then you look for the delivery partners. So I identify all the delivery partners. But can you identify delivery partners to put the vehicle together today? Well, everybody's doing their own thing, just trying to stay above water, right?
Right. And this is
everybody's just trying to pay their own bills. So how do you want to call and draw down on people to do this work for no money at great expense to their families, their relationships, and their commercial time? It's a big ask. So then I said, you know what, son? Go away and take up the call of that big ask. Just create the system that people can onboard, and then it becomes a living, breathing document to be improved upon throughout the ages by every generation. But let it be a system and an organization rather than a rhetoric that is to be repeated. Now, if we have it as an institution, everybody can onboard just from the website to play their role in those various departments. And now we're not talking anymore. Now we're actioning things that are going to be commercial in nature. They're going to be civic in nature. And when you solve civic problems, they end up being entrepreneurial. Let's take refuse collection. Refuse collection is more important than the function of some of our councillors. So it's worth money. Then what they do is they outsource to a commercial company to collect all of our refuse, commercial and residential.
Right.
That's worth money because you're answering a real world problem. And African Caribbean people have real world problems.
Okay. I like that. Because it's like you've looked at, I mean, when did you find the time to actually educate yourself? All right.
I constantly educate myself. I'm a lifelong learner. I recommend that we should all be lifelong learners because a degree that you got 30 years ago is irrelevant today. The world is turning. And the only thing that is a constant is change. You just said it. You were talking about Fruitly Bits, and now look, cryptocurrency. So we as African Caribbean people that didn't bog ourselves down in a fiat currency or old banking mechanisms are capable of completely frog leaping Europeans because we don't have anything tied down. We are going to now adopt technology from where it is to put into our entities. So we can completely frog leap them. We're not committed by any of that weight that they have in their old outdated systems. Look, they got to get rid of all of the telephone lines to bring in G5. We don't have to do any of that. We don't have to do that on the continent. And we're supposed to be making these relationships based on what we do here, touching base with our peers on the continent. If you're an engineer here, you're supposed to touch base with an engineer there, and then supposed to create contracts to gobble up all this work within the commercial sector. So if we want to be wide asleep, it's our choice, but it's entirely up to us.
I think, you know, you've got a global perspective on what's going on. I think because a lot of us are either tied into the borough in which we live in terms of our head is down. Some of us are able to lift up and go M25. Some of us are able to lift up and go as far as Birmingham and Leeds. Yeah. I mean, how did your international connections come about?
Curiosity. Shall I tell you what the first point is? I have a very high value proposition of Dino Kai. I love Dino Kai. So if I go in a room and you tell me Jay-Z is over there, I'm not going to stutter in my elevator pitch based on the value I have for myself. So if I saw a talk like this, whether it was at a university, whether it was at a big corporate event, and I saw a brother or sister, I go straight to LinkedIn and I reach out to them. And within the afternoon, we're having a Zoom or a telephone conversation. So I know how easy it is to connect the dots wherever people are. And then when you build up a catalog of contacts and you build up a track record of putting solutions together, by and large, the people I contact now have already heard of me and they're already aware of people that I'm working with. So, but it starts from a mustard seed of one person who is a high value individual. And then you say, well, there's no high value individual that is out of my peer league. I consider I have that value and I know what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
But I'm not coming and complaining.
But I like your strategic approach though, because you've identified the influencers who influence the
masses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're my delivery partners. Because if I have certain solutions that I don't believe have been adopted or put out yet, then I have to influence the influencers to create a critical mass. And when there's a critical mass of us, and we are now repeating the same rhetoric in the same way towards the same goal, it becomes an irresistible proposition to the masses. And then it's about having a viable vehicle that they can utilize that's practical in their lives. Because if you want people to adopt, add value to their lives. So ADPACK is there to add value to African Caribbean people's lives. It's not there for you if you're from Herzegovina, if you're not an African, or China, or Turkey. And God bless you. We can speak as peers in another way. Because if you want to align with us, I'm going to ask you what your budget is. Because we're peers, right?
Right. Okay.
Nothing for nothing, baby.
Okay.
Don't tell me we're here in solidarity because I must come out because you now have this problem in society. I will gladly advocate for you, King. What's your budget? Because my job is to go out of the family home and bring back for the family. So I can't give you my intellectual capital and experience for no money. That sounds bizarre for you to even ask.
But it's asked of us all the time. I think it was asked of us during the civil rights movement.
Absolutely, which is why everybody overtook us and then circumvented us when it came to being in the solution room because we were never there and we're still not there. I don't talk about civil rights because talking about civil rights is kind of like talking about the race game. It's all invented. I would rather talk about my inalienable human rights. So now that we're talking about my inalienable human rights, it's just a decent thing to do, right?
Right.
I don't want to talk to you about civil rights because they can change with your legislation. Bump your legislation. Let me set up an entity in trust. So we're just talking about common law. So now we're talking about human rights. We're not talking about civil rights because you can change them. So you can tell me it's legal for us to get married to dogs, but it's not legal for black people to come out in daylight based on civil rights. So keep your civil rights.
So then this structure here then, right? Start breaking it down for us.
Yes, sir. So ADPACK works across economics, education, employment, health, housing, justice, politics, trade and industry, and media. Each of those areas has a national director, and that's their specific expertise, what they have done in their professional life for 20, 30 years. Now, their role is to create the policy that we work around in each of those areas. So economics, if we're talking with finance professor, we are now building models that are going to support us. So a financial entity and how that works nationally, how that works internationally, to create the quickest route into us acquiring a banking license. So we wouldn't necessarily be looking at a national license, but a regional license, which is to each of the cities. Once we get that proof of concept, then we just duplicate in each city. And then they just become like what the Rothschilds did, tenets of a central banking system, which is ours. Now, if we're working with our own crypto wallet, which is an end-to-end wallet to deliver digital currency, then we have our own means of moving currency around outside of the SWIFT system. So we don't have to burn down Babylon. We live in a parallel universe. Education, with an education professor and an ex-head teacher, we have a curriculum, and we know exactly how that is to be delivered to our children, where they'll get a civic education and an entrepreneurial education that leads them to being the most productive citizens for our community. Very different from what we've previously done.
I'm going to stop you for a sec. Not because I'm being rude.
No, not at all.
But because you brought up education. Right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't stop there.
No.
Right.
So then we set up the framework for the public health approach, which is what they did in Scotland to save their children from knife crime. So Edinburgh was the knife crime capital of Europe. And then what they did was the Scottish government created a joined up agency approach so that all those agencies would work around young people to create wraparound care. What started to happen was less young people fell through the gaps, which means less young people were addicted to substances. And then they worked from the schools, local authority, with the police, with national health, with the local extracurricular youth provision. So when they started talking about doing a public health approach here, we met the guys who came down from Edinburgh. But the problem is, in Scotland, everybody is an Anglo-Saxon, right?
Right.
Well, that isn't our problem here.
Yeah.
So our delivery partners need to be culturally competent. So then I went about finding the culturally competent delivery partners, London, Birmingham, Manchester, to deliver rites of passage, supplementary schools, you name it, child parent intervention, child advocacy within the schools, youth psychologists, youth mentoring, and then child parent intervention when the African Caribbean family breaks down. So we can send someone to mediate to help.
What I really like about that is the way it involves Andrew Muhammad, the way it involves the Manhood Academy, the way it starts to wrap around and bring everyone together. Yeah. Now, because I know that we're short of time.
Yes, sir.
Right? I want people to subscribe to you, which I'm going to give them the details a bit later on. Yeah. But allow you to continue from education.
Yeah, I mean, all of the other departments work pretty much like that, coming up to politics, where we have a mandate to enable the political process to change legislation. So when I saw the We Matter Party forming, immediately I wanted to be part of that so that I could inform policy with inside and then connect them with all of my connections so that now all of those people that we're talking about are involved in the political process. So then out of that, we realized that we need more than a party. We need an APPG, which is an all-party political group, so that every party, you have a member from Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, Green Party, Christian Party, We Matter Party, and all of those guys would be working on exclusively African Caribbean issues, whether we are resident, whether we are immigrants, in the Caribbean islands or in the African countries that are in the Commonwealth countries. So in every single area is what exclusively works for us. Now, the national leadership create the policy. Where you see it says regional chapter, which is in any of our boroughs, so Lambeth, Lewisham, Southwark, Croydon, wherever that is, we have a regional chair. Now, the regional chair's job is to coordinate all of the grassroots groups in that borough, professionals and advocates to serve the membership who are the African Caribbean population of that borough. So that we keep it robust, we're opening a chapter in each of the boroughs. So Enfield, Haringey, Hackney, Southwark, Lambeth, Lewisham, Croydon, Lambeth, and Brent, because we've got very strong numbers in those boroughs. We don't want to be where we're not, because then it's just for optics. But everything that we're doing now is about function. It must be functional to improve our people's socio-economic mobility.
Bruv, Dean, I've got to say respect to you, bruv.
Yes, King.
I have to say respect to you because, like I said, I worship Andrew Muhammad. I worship Robin Walker. They've really taken me backwards. They've done Sankofa to me, basically. They've done Sankofa to me.
Sankofa, yeah.
Yeah, for me to realize exactly where I am today. But no one, and I mean that, no one has strategically put anything down for me to turn around and say, okay, this is how we move forward. You know, collectively as one. I mean, only the other day, there was, as you know, a landmarked victory.
Absolutely beautiful.
Nation of Islam, High Court win against the Met Police and Lambeth Council.
Yeah.
Right? Which obviously have a major impact for reasons I'd like you to explain. But in between all that, there's this, and I don't want you to really delve into that. I'd rather you deal with the impact you can have on us. But within that, straight away, we've got division.
Yeah.
We've got this muddy water of how we're supposed to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll deal with the win first.
Yes, please.
So power to Hakeem Mohammed and the Nation of Islam's elbow and all of the groups who were involved, like the Global African Congress, the Libel team, Rashid Nix. I was at the park on the day, and I got there after the jumbo screens had been turned off. Okay. Farrakhan giving a keynote speech to the Rasta movement, the reparations movement, and the Nation of Islam in Kennington Park. Now, here's where I admit where I was wrong, because what I said is I wouldn't have turned off the screens for a request from the police, but those with a greater wisdom and foresight knew why they were doing it. Yeah, because remember, I spoke about our inalienable human rights.
Yes, sir.
It's understanding that this is not civil rights now. You don't get to choose whether I have these rights. These are my inalienable human rights. So when they went and created a case, they knew that their inalienable human rights had been contravened. So no matter how much money Lambeth and Lambeth police spent, they knew they were going to win the case. It was inevitable. So when they did win the case, where they had to pay fees for the nation and the consortium of over £1 million, and they won the 92 grand, that was a landmark, not because of the money, but because of what was accomplished. And now, every time we have a class action with the government, and trust me, they are coming, I'm privy to know, we will utilize these case precedents that were established. And also in Bristol, Esther Costa Soze and the Stop the Mangamizi movement, who are now in place to hear a reparations case. So there's another consortium that I'm involved with that are involved in that to compile and make that more robust and add value, because it's about adding value. So I'll say one more thing. I'm not going to circumvent the question of division. There are men and women in our community who know exactly what that means in the Nation of Islam at this time.
They know.
And well, there is a division with our family in the Nation of Islam. And rather than go into that, what I will say is there are men and women in our community that I call custodians that have spoken to personally about mediating that family situation, because sometimes some of us will come and be so grandiose and like children who are just too obtuse and get a joy from it. we have no joy in any fractures in our family. We only ever want to see our family healed. And if we want to demonstrate that, then we should be more in the room of mediation than the Hollywood platform in blowing it up on social media. Now, I don't use that as a slight for how information was delivered the other day from my brother Kwaku, because I do believe that my brother Kwaku was correct in what he said and how he addressed it based on what was delivered. It wasn't necessary in that way, shape, or time. And whether it is Hakeem Mohammed or any of us as a community, including me, we are all accountable to our community, and we must feel free to criticize each other with constructive criticism and love, with no malicious intent, because we grow from that. And we will never get to a position of so much hubris that we feel we're above our brothers and sisters.
Excellent. Excellent. I just felt that we had to touch on it, and we had to, I didn't want us to feel that we were avoiding any issues that were out there. I mean, every family has things going on, whether it be your nuclear family, but we're talking about our global family here, and we're talking about us as Black UK. This is our family.
This is our family.
This is our family. Do you know what I mean? So it's important that we're all kind of aware of what's going on. All right. But
so I'll just say this. If the fruit that was in North London was bound back together with the fruit that is in South London,
powerful, man,
it will be such an unstoppable proposition across every single area that ADPACK is working. Why an ADPACK? Because not everybody wants the religion, and some people just stand back from it and they're scared. And I've seen it for 20 years.
Well, the way that it showed itself, because one of my mentors is Leo Muhammad.
Yes.
And he was one of the first people to introduce satire to Black British.
Absolutely.
The first to actually do it. I mean, Felix Dexter was doing it on another level, right? Yeah. He was talking to he was talking to Middle England.
Very fun.
Yeah, he was talking to Middle England. Yeah. Whereas
Leo Muhammad was talking to us.
He was talking to us, right? And I learned so much of him. And it wasn't until later did I understand where Kwaku was coming from.
Yeah.
Because of the likes of Robin
Leo Muhammad, absolutely.
Who was doing the teachings, yeah?
You see the lineage?
Yes, sir, I do. Yeah.
And I come from a lineage that has been taught by Kwaku.
Okay.
So nothing comes from nowhere. So when I was 18, although I was selling pirates and porn, I was in Panther UK getting a political education.
Talk about that. Talk about that.
I joined Panther because Stephen Lawrence was murdered. I won't say when he was murdered. It was because he was murdered. He's from my area. He looks like me. His birthday's 7 days after mine. You're looking at a 46-year-old man who's who he could have been. This is why I was so driven. When I say I value my life, so I must value my peers' lives. It's going to drive me to go in a different direction and make fundamental decisions that change and frame my life. So I joined Panther UK on Landor Road in Stockwell, May 7, 1993, and went on the Stephen Lawrence March in Welling, May 8, 1993. Got my eye bust by feds with a truncheon because I wasn't quick enough to get out of the way when somebody screamed charge. Okay. And got my political education there and ended up giving speeches for the next 2 years at Brixton Rec, SOAS, Hammersmith and West College. So petty crime during the day in South London. And then I would give a talk in the Brixton Rec, or I'd be in SOAS University in the debating teams and then playing chess in the bar where I realized I could buy a liquor for 50p a pint, whereas I've got to pay my £2 in South London.
Okay.
So I felt like a god going into the bar with 20 quid.
Okay. And dear standing, I just want everyone to know that the gentleman with the briefcase, he's our historian, our Black historian, goes by the name of Robin Walker. And he teaches, where's the school that he teaches? Croydon.
It's in Croydon. Croydon.
He's somebody that I'm definitely going to want to bring on Keep It Real to educate us about how he got educated. So important. And then the young gentleman right off screen, it might be left off screen to you guys, short guy with the link sticking out of his ears, that's Andrew Muhammad. You know, having a big influence and a big impact on our younger generation, especially when it comes to our boys. Especially when it comes to our boys. You know,
everybody there that day. You had Nubians, Asari St. Hill, who is next to Andrew Muhammad as a Pan-Africanist. Very serious caliber people. And because I'm privy to have phone calls anytime that is required, because they've blessed me with that privilege, I don't have the excuse of not delivering solutions, because they're all out there. There's nothing new under the sun. There's somebody in our community that does this thing at the highest echelons in the European world that is now delivering the intellectual capital for us. So
right.
I don't take
what I want everybody to actually recognize here is that Dean is an architect. Yeah, he's not a man who pushes himself up front to be leader. Right, there are more charismatic individuals who do that job. Yeah, so understand where the strategy and the philosophy is coming from in terms of us moving forward as a Black UK nation. Right, and that's why I feel very proud and privileged that you've actually come on and took the time to talk to a satirist like myself. Right,
I appreciate that, King.
Because people confuse the fact that I'm a comedian with the fact that I'm actually quite politically aware.
I don't.
Right? No, but but then, you know, it's difficult when you go into a comedy arena and you say the things that I do, and I know that I'm not anticipating laughter. I'm anticipating applause. Right? That's what I'm looking for, because I know once I've got the applause, all right. Yeah, but I just want people to recognize and understand just how important a role that you play in what could happen over the next 20 or 30 years. Also,
I'll be frank. For me, it's not that.
That's the most important. Sorry, I'll allow you to.
I just say this. The most important thing for me is adoption, because what traditionally we do is a certain portion of us will get behind an individual as an avatar, and that's fantastic. You put the avatar up front, then you kill them dead, and they go into history. And then when they're actually dead, we all cry and we feel bad and we say, oh, we should have done more. I'm not interested in that. We've seen it a million times. All I'm interested in, like me, hate me, I really don't give a damn. Just adopt. Agree in principle with everything that's being said. Fantastic. Adopt and apply the solutions to your life. That is it. Because once we have a model where we're actually utilizing it, and it can make a marked difference to our lives in terms of the quality of our life or our socioeconomic ability, that's it. So membership in ADPACK is £5 a month for individuals, which will give them access to online training, monthly meetings, and obviously all of the advocacy that we build out. For organizations, it's £15. What we're doing with organizations is bringing them into the various initiatives and pipelines, and then creating the consortiums to go for the joint bids together. So whereas individually somebody might be able to get 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, we're only interested in going for £500,000 bids, £1 million bids as consortiums to deliver amongst the delivery partners. Excuse me. And then friends of ADPACK are institutions who aren't necessarily us, but they have access to have conversations with us. So civil service, banks, and they want to talk about the African Caribbean issues. We will give them intelligence and work with them.
Okay.
Excuse me.
No, that's okay. I feel as though what I've actually took advantage of you, Dean.
No.
I've actually took advantage because, as everybody knows, normally when I come up to the hour, I say, right? But I felt that this was such an important It's the most important interview I've ever had, to be honest with you. And I'd like to think that people are going to share this. It's important that people share, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're in Facebook or whatever, because, you know, information trickles down.
Yeah.
And I want people to see your name on anything. And I want people to want to engage with what you're doing for us, to be honest with you, you know. And as you said, you reach out to the influencers who influence the influencers. And I know the role that I play. I'm an influencer who influences.
Absolutely.
I know that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I have the numbers to show it, but trust me, I see my work on other people's platforms. So I know what I'm saying.
Definitely.
Yeah? So it's important that the people who are in the room now understand that you are influencers and you will influence the influencers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like when you throw a stone into water, it has this ripple effect. Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm 100% sure that this interview will do tonight. And I really hope it propels and it galvanizes the community into understanding what is required of us as elders, because our parents came in 58. A lot of us was born in the 60s. Yeah. A lot of us are now house owners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a question of what is the legacy you're going to leave behind? Because if all you're going to leave behind is the house, you might as well just fuck off, as far as I'm concerned.
A shame.
You've left nothing. You've absolutely left nothing. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest with you, I find myself in that position and I feel disgusted with myself, you know, but I'm awake now.
I say is this, and another thing, I'm glad you said that you're disgusted with yourself. Not for why some people would say, it's because you're bringing up a point for me. We got to be a little bit kinder to ourselves as well. And we've got to recognize that we're merely representative of all other ethnicities. We do the same shit that everybody does, but we're a lot harder on ourselves. And I think that's my missus. Comedy and politics go hand in hand. Sometimes, baby, sometimes.
Is that the missus?
Yeah, that's my missus.
Lovely woman, man.
Yeah, she is. So when we are more humane to ourselves and we are more humane to each other, there's a huge value in that we raise our capital. So this lady, for instance, she will chop me down like an axeman to a tree. But
you think I don't know?
She's also my biggest supporter and will give me the constructive criticism to keep my feet on the ground when I need it. Otherwise, I'd be crazier than a crackhead. My ego would be on steroids. Okay. So she keeps me humble. And it's very necessary for a man to be in this position and remain humble, because you run away with yourself. You can see it with brothers acting like rappers in the States. You're saying you're the Prince of Pan-Africanism and you're arguing, but you're cussing in public. That's a phone call. Phone that man. There are men that I do not get on with at a particular juncture. More than that was the reparations march. I recommend we all go to the reparations march and adopt this. Because if that money drops, I should say when that money drops, when we manage to extrapolate it from there,
it's a when, bro.
We will change all of our lives and our grandchildren's lives in closing the wealth gap by creating parity with all of the institutions of our own creation that we don't have at the moment. But the woman keeps me grounded and she keeps me humble. Or trust me, I'd be crazy.
I hear you, bro. I hear you. Right. Yes, Dean is most definitely an architect. We are fortunate to have him. And that is, of course, your rock speaking there. And I mean, there's no one who's going to know you any better. Every time I hear Mr. Akara, how do I pronounce your name?
Okay.
Okay, speak.
Don't listen to Silban for it.
Okay. He instills a sense of progress that I through my naivety never knew existed. I understand what you're saying, Colin. I understand exactly what you're saying. 110%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to give you lot long. All right, you've only got 3 minutes, right? Because you know why he's coughing? Because I chat too much. It was chat too much.
And you know what? I had a glass of rum and it's finished.
I'm only going to give you guys 3 minutes. If there is any question that you would like to ask Dean, right? Now is the time. Now is the time, because like I said, man, he's given us an hour. He's actually given us an hour and coming up to an hour and a half now, which is a bit greedy of me. I'm not going to lie. That's a bit greedy of me. But I said to myself that I would take it because we were fortunate enough to have you one Friday morning.
Good show.
You know, thank you. Where you gave us a breakdown. But I knew it was paraphrased. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. And I wanted to take the opportunity to just relax into it, really. You know, just to relax into it and give people a chance to absorb and take you in as a person, you know, as well as a statesman, you know. But I just have to say thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you for inviting me, brother.
Nah, man.
I don't underestimate. I'll say this one thing. I don't underestimate any of us for the innate value that we bring to our community. And I think sometimes what happens at a stage is we get so lofty, we get this thing of hubris and start to look down on people. But every single one of us has a unique value to contribute to our community. When someone who is a custodian is aware of that, well, then you just start to apply people to the various tasks by providing the opportunity. Now, if you don't value someone who's highly valuable, because as much as we love being taught or learning things, we want to relax and just kick off our shoes at a point as well.
Yeah.
And we've got to make room for that.
Yeah.
Because we're human beings. And all of this is who makes up the man or the woman. Anyone who's just straight, I don't trust you. I was sitting here having a great time drinking my rum whilst I'm reasoning with you. These are my vices, my woman and my drink. That's it.
Okay, I like that. I mean, we all need that. There she is up front.
That's where she should be.
And this is your son.
My son and my niece, my 2 nieces there, and my nephew in the background went to Winter Wonderland.
Lovely, man. Lovely.
My sister's children.
I was wondering what the hell was going on in this one. It looked like them two.
You know, there's a funny story in this. It's not so funny. This is my family at my cousin's funeral, who died after taking an MDMA pill. His organs shut down one by one over the course of 4 days. So the man in the middle is my uncle, who I looked after for 3 months of his life in 1997, who I didn't see again after he left my yard until he was at my cousin's mum's funeral, who passed from lupus. And I hadn't seen him, and it wasn't the best terms because he just disappeared on me. So we pretended like nothing had happened at that funeral, and I didn't really talk to him. This other gentleman in the hat.
It's like you're looking and going, boy, them going again.
This other uncle in my hat, hat, is, so that's my Uncle Omar in the middle. Right. This is my Uncle Lee, who is a dancer. He's the artist of the family in all senses. Okay. But we had a word at that funeral, and that actually made up because it's his son who passed. Now, the gentleman who is kissing my other uncle wearing the fur coat, he's gangster number 1. That's my favorite uncle, Uncle Lee. It's his younger brother who passed whilst he was in jail. So 3 of my cousins got out of jail at the same time, and we were having our own council. Now, the drink on my cousin who's in front of me's head was spilled by my cousin who's kissing my uncle because he was extremely wet. So he wore a suit to the funeral, went round the corner and got changed and came back. At that time, he was inebriated. God bless him. So, and this is me with the boy and my nieces and nephews at London Zoo.
Lovely, bro. Lovely.
Yeah. Lovely. And this is my father with my son.
That's your dad?
Earl Okai and Dean Okai, the sequel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've just had a look at his lineage, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you guys have appreciated it, and I hope you guys have felt privileged to have a look behind the scenes of Mr. Dean, because we're going to see this brother. We're going to see this brother, and you guys have got an insight that a lot of people won't have or would not have had.
No, they wouldn't.
I know, I hear that. I've just checked my my Facebook, and I noticed that it has not been shared as much as I hoped it would have. Right? And I know that there's 22 of you, 21 people in the room, yeah, and possibly a few of you on YouTube. So please do me the honor of sharing this, not because I'm trying to big up myself, but understand, did you get the message? You understand? You understand what I said? Did you get the message? That's what I want you to push out. Yeah, that's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. So I think I've got a question here for you. My question to you is, what can we as a community to protect our school children who are being kidnapped?
Absolutely.
What can we do to help this?
So I've put out a notice on Facebook for any parents who feel that they're willing and qualified, contact Forever Family. There's a link on the post. It's an ADPACK post. So contact Forever Family. They're having a mass patrol on Friday in different areas with our young people. For anybody else who doesn't feel physically enabled to do that, if they would like to join us in calling out the mayor at City Hall at 2 p.m. on Friday, we'll be outside City Hall to call out the mayor, to hold him accountable and hold the police accountable for not taking the kidnap of our children seriously. The mayor controls all London resources. He's in contact with all London media and national media. And there was no specific news put out for our children to be vigilant, or for our parents to be vigilant of kidnappers, as many cases have been reported about an Eastern European gang kidnapping our children. So we want to hold him to account, and it's on two fronts. One, that he can't go to sleep for the next 4 years, like he did for the past 5 years of being mayor. One of them he gained as a bonus year due to so-called COVID-19 regulations. And two, that we want a reform of the police. We're not out here screaming defund the police or anything that is so provocative. We want to reform the police so that a police force is ethnically representative of the communities in which they police, and also that those police have a sensitivity training when dealing with the African Caribbean community. We're not here to be over-policed and underserved.
Right.
Police are in our community to protect us, just like everybody else. So they're not going to victimize our children, and they're not going to victimize us. We're going to call them out on Friday. For everybody else, patrol the schools with Forever Family. And for those who actually get a payoff from doing it, talk to them about working with them and patrolling with them and volunteering on a regular basis. That's not to say that you're doing it like a job, but you have a regular contribution that you're making to your community and protecting our children.
Excellent.
And also, neither of us mind if you donate to us. So you can donate to Forever Family via the PayPal, and you can donate to ADPACK on the ADPACK page donations.
So I'm actually hoping that most of those in the room, especially after the show, will actually take the time out to go and do the right thing. Yeah. Now I'm hoping this thing's gonna work the way it should have done at the beginning. Yeah. This was your collage, mate. This was your collage.
When I look in awesome wonder, all the things that he has done, no weapon formed against me can survive or prosper. He's my light and my salvation. God bless, no man curse. He will never forsake me. Yes, I pass the word.
That was your collage, my friend. It was meant to have come up at the beginning, but it showed itself at the end.
That's why we don't stop trying, brother.
I guess that was just Jaz's way of kind of like saying, I saw you do it tonight, you know, Rudy. I saw you. I saw you do it. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, remember, you are the influencers who influence the influencers. All right. So it's important that you share this, not because I'm trying to, you know, get as many people as I can possibly get.
Which there is nothing wrong with.
Okay. But because of the message. It's because of the message. And I feel that as an elder, you know, who does have some influence, I have a responsibility to get that message out. I've spent nearly 30 odd years traveling up and down the UK, as well as around the world, to raise the profile of what it is to be Black, British and proud. All right. And I'm continuing to do so. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you guys to all at least say thank you to Dean for taking the time out to come and talk to us tonight, which I'm sure that you guys will do. 1111. Let's see. Speak, Elder Rudi. It's like there's a whole man. You see how the grey hairs them come down. Yes, sir.
Platinum is wisdom. Yours might be grey. Mine is platinum. Is wisdom.
You call it platinum, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got to say on that note, it is time for us to let Dean go. Thank you very much for.
Thank you for inviting me, brother.
No, man. It was a pleasure having you. Trust me, it was a pleasure having you, and the pleasure, if anything, it's thank you. So. It's time for us to
with Rudi Lickwood, the topical interactive chat show, every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. with special guests and you, the audience. Comedy with Rudi Lickwood. This event is brought to you by Comedy Hotspot. Don't forget, keeping it real with Rudi Lickwood.